All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine this. What if you could take everything you already know about building for the web? You know, your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, and just use it to create these really powerful native desktop apps, the kind that run on any operating system? Well, today we're going to dive into the tech that makes that whole idea reality, and that is Electron.
So to really get why Electron is such a game changer, we kind of have to rewind a little bit. We need to talk about a problem, a feeling really, that pretty much every single web developer out there has run into.
Yeah, if you're a web developer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You ever feel, well, trapped? It's like you're living inside this little browser sandbox. And look, it's safe in there, it's secure, but wow, is it limiting. You're totally walled off from the actual computer your code is running on.
And this really gets to the heart of that classic trade-off, right? On one side, you've got web apps. They're amazing because they're universal, but they're stuck in that sandbox. They can't just, reach out and grab a file from your desktop. But then you have native apps. These things have immense power. They're woven right into the operating system, full access to the file system, the whole shebang. The catch? Building them usually means learning 3 completely different languages and frameworks just to hit Windows, macOS, and Linux. It's a huge undertaking.
So, the big question is, how do you get all that native power without having to throw away the web skills you've spent years building? Well, this is exactly where Electron steps onto the stage. So here it is, Electron. What is it really? At its core, it's a framework, a runtime that lets you build full-blown desktop applications using nothing but the web tech you already know. We're talking HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Think of it as the key that just completely unlocks that browser sandbox, letting you write one single app that runs natively on macOS, Windows, and Linux. And here's the really wild part. You've probably used an Electron app, maybe even today, without even realizing it. This is not some niche experimental thing. It's the technology that's quietly powering applications that you almost certainly use every single day. I mean, the proof is right there. Just look at the heavy hitters who trust Electron. We're talking about Microsoft's VS Code, which is, only one of the most popular code editors on the entire planet. And even the Brave browser? Yeah, you heard that right, a web browser, built with web technologies. If that's not a massive vote of confidence, I don't know what is.
There's this quote from Stephen Kinney's book, Electron in Action, that just nails it. He says it gives web developers capabilities that are not available in the browser. And that's it, right there. It's literally about giving web devs superpowers that they just don't have when they're stuck inside the browser.
Okay, so how does this magic trick actually work? What's the secret sauce? How in the world does Electron manage to bridge these 2 completely different worlds and combine the simplicity of the web with the raw power of the desktop?
Well, it's actually a super clever combination of 2 absolute powerhouse open source projects. First, you get Chromium. Yep, that's the core engine behind Google Chrome, the part that's amazing at rendering web pages. And then it bundles in Node.js, which is the famous JavaScript runtime that lets JavaScript break free from the browser and talk directly to the computer.
So think about it like this. Chromium brings the entire front-end party. It's what lets you build your beautiful user interface with HTML and CSS, mess with the DOM, and use all those web APIs you already know and love. And then Node.js brings the back-end muscle. It's what gives your app direct access to the file system, lets you tap into powerful compiled modules, and use that robust server-side module system. You get the best of both worlds, all bundled up in one package.
The way it's all put together is actually pretty elegant. Think of it like a stage play. You have one main process, and this is your stage manager. It's the boss. It starts the app, it creates the windows, which are like the stage, and it's the only one allowed to talk to the native operating system. To do things like open a file dialog. Then you have your renderer processes. These are the actors. Each one is basically a browser window that displays your UI, and they each get their own thread to do their thing. Now, I gotta be real, this is also where the trade-off comes in. Because you're essentially shipping a mini browser with your app, Electron apps can be, well, a bit chunky. They can have larger file sizes and use more memory than a purely native app. But hey, that's kind of the price you pay for this incredible cross-platform convenience.
Okay, so with all this talk of processes and architecture, you might be thinking, wow, this sounds complicated to get started. But honestly, one of Electron's biggest strengths is how easy it is to get up and running. Let's do a super quick walkthrough of the basics.
All right, step 1, you just pop open your terminal and run a standard npm init. If you've done any Node.js development, you've seen this a million times. It just creates that package.json file, which is basically the blueprint for your whole project.
Step 2, you just install Electron. One simple command, npm install electron/save. And that's it.
It pulls down everything you need right into your project, and you're ready to start using all those special Electron APIs. And for step 3, you create 2 simple JavaScript files. You've got your main.js. Remember, that's for our stage manager process, the one that creates the windows. And then you have your renderer.js, which is for the actor. That's the code that's going to run inside the window and control your actual UI. And then, the moment of truth. You just type npm start into your terminal.
And just like that, boom, you are not looking at a website in a browser tab anymore. You have a real, honest-to-goodness, clickable application icon running right there in your dock or your taskbar. It's an actual desktop app just waiting for you to fill it with your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. What does all of this really mean for you as a developer? What can you actually build with this?
Let's just break it down. First, you get to build on the web dev skills you already have. But now, you can access native OS stuff, like creating custom menus or popping open file dialogues. Your app has way more privileges because, it's not trapped in that sandbox. It works offline right out of the box. And, maybe the best part of all, you can support macOS, Windows, and Linux from one single codebase. That is huge. Which really brings us to the final and most exciting question of all. The walls of that browser sandbox are gone. The full power of the computer is right there at your fingertips, and you can use the skills you already have. So, what are you going to build first?